Here's some background information. The site of our quadrant is in Fremont, California, Mission San Jose High School. The approximate absolute location of our quadrant is 37 degrees 30 minutes north, 121 degrees 54 minutes west. The elevation of our quadrant begins at 149 feet, but it peaks at 159 feet, approximately a 10-foot change. Fremont is located in a temperate climate zone which has mild to warm summers and cool winters. Often temperate climate zones are located near the coast. This information helped us greatly while observing our species. During our experiment, we chose animals from different trophic levels and wanted to observe the changes in their migration patterns in relationship to the temperature and climate conditions of each day. If the temperature is high and there is little to no wind, then the animals will migrate more frequently in and out of the habitat. Our basic procedure was that we found a suitable environment with variations and mapped out data and stable things, and we would visit twice a day and keep a field journal of our observations, and at the end we made a video with all our data as we are right now. Lewis will explain more about our ecosystem.
The region that we inspected was this circled region right here, in between the main gym and the dining distribution area. Well, what's of interest is that before it was just basically a barren slope of dirt with a couple of trees, but now Mission Possible added tambark and a bunch of more plants. So next, I'll be drawing a map of the region. To the left of it is the gym, is the main quad, and to the right of it is the gym quad. So first off, there's this really big patch of greenery right here, which I will color green because it's green. And well, the flowering part of this greenery is Arabidopsis saliana, and in particular, once it flowered, there was a great influx of bees in the region. So as you can see, the distribution map would heavily focus on this region. I will draw this in blue. There was sort of a crawler plant which does not flower, and it's also green, and it's called Parthenocissus tricuspidata. Right above it is a four sort of sprouting, sort of flowery plant with very thin stem. I classify them as daffodils, and their scientific name is Narcissus tazeta. There are 4 of these. Then after that, there are 6 trees, and in between these trees, there are a couple of stumps. Like there's a stump here, then there are 2 more trees, and there's a stump here, then there are 3 more trees. These trees are most likely Ligustrum japonicum, or in other words, the privet tree, and they've been there before the renovation, so because they're pretty big. And yeah. So in addition, there are a lot of other sprouting sort of plants, but these plants do not flower. I identify these as the Yucca rupicola, and in particular, these plants actually they flower only once in their lifetime, and then they die, which is pretty interesting. And yeah, there are a couple of them here. Furthermore, there are a group of hydrangeas. They range from purple colors during flowers to white flowers, and there are about 5 of these patches. There are a couple of bees. There's also a few dragonflies over here, and there's another patch of greenery. This is Ilex aquifolium. It's much smaller than this one. It doesn't have any insects right next to it. So yeah. There's also a sort of a new group of trees which have wooden supports. These are Quercus lobata. Quercus lobata. Yeah, they have very thin stems. They were recently planted. Therefore, they need the support, or they might fall down. They're at risk of falling down. And regarding to more population distribution of the animals, the birds, they generally like the ledges over here in the roof of the gym, and a couple birds like the the leaves of the trees as well. And the squirrels also tend to roam around in this general region. And yeah, and I already said the dragonflies live around here.
Follow me as I teach you about the variety of plant life and vegetation that is present here in our ecosystem. The plant we are observing right now is called Arabidopsis thaliana. It has small white flowers, sprawling leaves, and lies low on the ground. We often see bees congregating around the flowers, especially on warmer days. The plant we are about to observe is called Parthenopsis tricuspidata. It is a crawling plant, has sparse leaves, and no flowers. You will observe it in just a few seconds. Here is Parthenopsis tricuspidata. We move on to Narcissus tazetta, a flowering plant with very thin stems, white flowers, and broad leaves. We will move on to observe a tree called Quercus lobata. It is one of the smaller trees and has greenish flowers and distributed florets. It is supported by a stick because it has been planted fairly recently. The next plant we will observe is called Yucca rupicola. It has broad red leaves and no flowers. We will go on to observe a spread-out shrub called Hydrangea microphylla. Florets range from white to purple flowers. We are about to view our last plant called Ligustrum japonicum. It is a large tree with cuspid leaves and large cylindrical flower clusters, as you can see here. We will now go on to learn more about the animals and insects we studied and their pattern. I would like to start off by talking about bees, otherwise known as Apis mellifera. We have found that with relation to temperature and wind speed, the population of the bees in our chosen environment was very crucial. The main points that we discovered were if temperature was too hot, then the bees had a higher chance of not showing up because of the heat that was present at the site. Second, if the wind was way too strong, then the bees had a hard time getting to their destination, and many did not reach their way back to our biome. Lastly, we found that as there was a more substantial amount of flowers available for food collection, there was a large increase in the amount of bees to harvest the vast amount of honey that was available to them. This was a large factor in seeing the huge increase in the last few days when the bushes and the trees bloomed at the same time, which increased the attraction rate of all the pollen that was dusting the air, therefore brought more bees to the site than ever. This is the California ground squirrel, also known as Spermophilus beechii. Like all the other species, the higher the temperature, the more plentiful and the more active the California ground squirrel population was. This is the brown thrasher, otherwise known as Tosoxtoma rufum. It can be tricky to glimpse a brown thrasher in a tangled mass of shrubbery. They tend to be gangly and boldly patterned, yet they are great at camouflaging and they love to sing. In our observations, the birds tended to move a lot more in the heat and tended to congregate around their nests. On average, the Arabidopsis thaliana covered 42 square yards. The Hydrangea microphylla covered a total of around 36 square yards. On average, the Yucca rupicola had 13 plants covering around 13 square yards. The Quercus lobata had 5 trees with an unidentifiable average surface area. The Ligustrum japonicum had 5 trees with an unidentifiable average surface area. On average, the Ilex acifolium covered a total average of around 8 yards in total surface area. On average, there is 1.4 Spermophilus beechii in our habitat, therefore 1 or 2, and 1.38 Toxostoma rufum, therefore 1 or 2 as well. An example of approximate question is, how do these organisms respond to the change in environmental stimuli? An ultimate question is, how do the reactions of these organisms to environmental stimuli affect their chances of survival and reproduction? Overall, we learned a vast amount of skill within the topic of direct observation and cohesive thinking within the group. Through this project, we have learned how to work with a team and provide information that will help all of us complete our tasks within our task force. Also, our ability to pay close attention to the traits and behavior of animals and plants, and even the relationship that plants and animals have, has greatly increased through the tireless searching of information within the biome. Even more so, the application and ability to record the information collected within our personal logs has helped us in keeping track of some once insignificant data to become a bigger piece in the puzzle.